Imagine waking up one day to discover that the person you've shared your life with, your spouse, your best friend, your rock, has been living a double life so shocking, it's hard to believe. What if everything you thought you knew about them was a carefully constructed lie? And here's the real kicker. This isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a tale so twisted that even the FBI got fooled. Could you spot the signs of a con artist, even if they were sleeping in the same bed as you? An endearing family man with an apparently ideal existence concealed a sinister, deranged double life that came to light with startling results. Mark Jenkins showed the world that he was a loving parent and a loving spouse. In the early 2000s, Mark seemed to have it all in his little town of Evergreen Hills, Ohio. The Jenkins family appeared to be the epitome of the American dream, with his wife, Laura Jenkins, an elementary school teacher who was praised for her kindness and warmth, and their two kids, Emily and Jake. Their ideal life was perfectly framed by their charming suburban home, which included a white picket fence. However, beneath this meticulously constructed exterior was a maze of dishonesty, fraud, and even homicide. Everyone considered Mark Jenkins to be a hero, but in reality, he was behind one of the most complex Ponzi schemes in recent memory. His tale is a disturbing reminder that even the closest relationships can have horrific secrets and that outward looks can be deceiving. A photograph of perfection. Mark Jenkins was not merely a guy of the home. With an amazing resume and a commanding personality, Mark was a former Marine who became the CEO of a corporation. He gained the respect of his colleagues and a prosperous salary from his successful financial job, which enabled him to lavishly support his family. His reputation as a community leader was solidified by his frequent attendance at church, coaching of his son's baseball team, and frequent hosting of neighborhood barbecues. A devoted and encouraging wife, Laura frequently conveyed her appreciation for her husband's security and prosperity. She raised Emily and Jake in a loving, humorous home while putting her all into her career as a teacher and fostering young minds. The Jenkins family's happiness was often praised by their neighbors, who described them as the type of family that others wanted to be like. However, the flaws in this flawless picture started to appear subtly. Mark, who had been loving and attentive, became aloof. Laura saw that he started answering calls late at night, going missing for hours at a time, and displaying unusual outbursts of rage. She initially attributed it to work-related stress because Mark's demanding finance position could readily account for such shifts. Suspicion establishes itself. Laura kept sensing that something wasn't right as the weeks stretched into months. Unaccounted for absences, cryptic remarks about business issues, and escalating mood swings were all signs of her husband's growing secretiveness. Laura once found a concealed phone in Mark's exercise bag while cleaning up. It made her stomach turn because it included wire transfer details, references to offshore accounts, and communications from unknown numbers. Mark dismissed her worries when she pressed him, saying the phone had to do with delicate business things. Laura's instincts, however, warned her otherwise. She began journaling after making the discovery, carefully recording everything of Mark's strange behaviors, from his late-night meetings to his sudden irritation. When Laura heard Mark murmuring about financial transactions that had gone south and the necessity of fixing things before it's too late, her anxiety increased. Laura started to worry that his secrets would have terrible repercussions because her once loving husband had turned into a stranger. The federal investigation. When federal officials began looking into Mark's financial operations in March 2005, Laura's greatest worries came true. She discovered that the man she believed to be her acquaintance had been scamming investors out of millions of dollars through a sophisticated Ponzi scheme. Mark used his qualifications as a financial counselor to entice clients by promising low risks and large profits. He had maintained the plan for years by using money from new investors to compensate early investors. The extent of Mark's deceit became evident as the investigation progressed. He had defrauded over 100 victims, many of whom had given him their whole life savings of almost $15 million. The complexity of his operation, which included layers of shell businesses, fraudulent documents, and fabricated bank records, astonished even seasoned FBI investigators. Mark got desperate as he became aware that the authorities were getting closer. He persuaded Laura that he was being pursued by vicious rivals in the finance sector in order to keep her under control. In an effort to protect the family, he even placed security cameras throughout their house. The vanishing. On a soggy June morning in 2005, things reached a breaking point. As usual, Mark left for work and never came back. After several days without hearing from him, Laura became increasingly anxious and filed a missing persons report. Mark had left the nation without telling her, depleting their financial accounts and leaving her and the kids penniless. Laura's journey started when it was revealed that Mark had vanished. As the wife of a fleeing con artist, she was suddenly forced into the national spotlight. Outside her house, reporters set up camp and asked intrusive questions while making assumptions about her possible involvement in Mark's crimes. The FBI also started looking into her because they thought she might have been involved. Laura insisted that she was innocent and that she had been tricked just like everyone else. However, the frequent media attention and her financial difficulties took a toll. Laura had to face the tough reality of starting over since she had no money and 2 kids to take care of. A mother's willpower. Laura resisted allowing Mark's behavior to define her in spite of the enormous obstacles. She started her own inquiry, looking through old documents and emails for information that could clear her identity. When she discovered encrypted files containing Mark's financial transactions on their home computer, her efforts were fruitful. She quickly gave the FBI the proof, which gave them vital information about how his plan was being carried out. Laura was surprised to learn more from the FBI's probe. There were many lies and deceptions in Mark's background. His illustrious military career was a lie. He had been dishonorably discharged for deception. Investigators also determined that Mark had engaged in a number of dubious activities even before he met Laura, which painted a picture of a man whose whole existence was based on lies. The trail of a fugitive. Following a trail of offshore accounts and fictitious identities, the FBI pursued Mark across several nations as the manhunt grew more intense. It appeared that Mark was getting assistance from accomplices since he was able to keep one step ahead. Investigators believed that he had connections to organized crime, which gave him the means to avoid being apprehended. Laura's life, however, continued to be chaotic. She remained under public scrutiny, with some claiming that she was involved in Mark's plans. Her kids also found it difficult to deal with their father's passing and the shame surrounding his transgressions. While young Jake frequently asked agonizing questions about when his father would return, Emily, now a teenager, started to withdraw. A message of chillingness. When Laura found a mysterious message concealed behind her door, the story took a terrifying turn. "I'm always watching," it said. "Keep the children protected." Laura shuddered as she saw that the handwriting was identical to Mark's. The FBI stepped up monitoring surrounding Laura's house because they were more determined than ever to get Mark and were worried that he could try to get in touch with her or the kids directly. When a former co-worker of Mark's gave a tip on his location, it was a breakthrough. According to the informant, Mark had been preparing to escape further into Central America while sheltering at a secluded property in Mexico. The FBI and Mexican authorities worked together to conduct a spectacular raid on the property, the last battle. Mark just escaped captivity once more during the tense confrontation that followed the attack. But the authorities discovered indications that he was growing more desperate and paranoid. His options were limited, and his complex web of falsehoods was coming undone. Mark made a crucial error months later. In an effort to influence her one final time, he called Laura. In a high-stakes operation, the FBI tracked down the call and eventually captured Mark in a small Belizean seaside community. Justice and repercussions. Although Laura's struggle was far from over, Mark's arrest provided some closure. Mark displayed the same charisma that had earlier captivated investors during his trial, which turned into a media circus. Despite his denial of guilt and his assertion that he had been set up, he was found guilty due to the overwhelming evidence. Laura and her kids had to rebuild their lives after Mark was given a 30-year sentence in federal prison. A warning story. Laura is still rebuilding today, working to give Emily and Jake a secure and caring home. Her experience serves as a warning about the strength of deceit and the fortitude needed to face treachery. Although Mark Jenkins' complex falsehoods and vicious deeds left a path of destruction in their wake, they also demonstrated the resilience of people who choose not to let other people's acts define them. Laura is adamant about making sure her kids understand the importance of honesty and integrity values that Mark so cruelly betrayed as she considers the past. If you're hooked and want more jaw-dropping stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what we have coming next.